Okay, there we go. Brilliant.
Do you want to welcome people and crack on so that we do
Yeah, should we do that? Okay, excellent. So, welcome everybody. We've got about 30 people in and we're expecting 92 today. I've had a few people ask if we're recording the session, which we are. So if that is a problem for you, let me know, and we can make sure that we try not to include your name in anything. But hopefully everybody has come into this in the spirit of sharing. And on that note, I want to say a massive thank you to you, Lara, for being so generous with your time and your knowledge. I've never seen any of our events fill up so quickly. So I think your offer has come at the right time, and there are a lot of people who are really looking to benefit from your experience today. Lara also did ask me to include a disclaimer that she doesn't have all the answers, which of course none of us do. But this is a really good time for us to be reaching out to one another, utilizing our networks, building our networks, and asking for help. So hopefully if we all kind of approach it with that spirit and open heart and open mind, we'll come out of this much better off than we would have otherwise. So I have also just a couple of housekeeping rules asking everyone. I have muted everyone as they've come in. We're going to have about a 20-25 minute chat, and then we'll switch over to Q&A. There is an option for you to raise a hand if you'd like to ask a question. So I think that's probably going to be the most civilized way to do it. And I'll also keep an eye on the chat function. So if you don't want to ask a question yourself, I can ask the question for you in the chat function. You can also share those questions with everybody. So I think if we're ready to go, without further ado, Lara, you have a huge amount of business experience across multiple sectors and have driven businesses through some previous global crises. I'm not quite sure if they're at the scale that we're at now, but it would be amazing to hear your anecdotes or some of the challenges that you've faced, and possibly how they compare with where we are now.
Okay, so morning everybody. I'll get into it straight away, and just because we've all got things to do, and hopefully we can take away some real value. I've written some notes which I've asked Michelle perhaps to share, but if there's any really big nuggets, I think maybe at the end of it, capture a nugget and share it back with Michelle so she can really underline key lessons. And if you want questions offline, happy to do so. We've got a really big mix of people. We had a quick look at who's signed up, and there's proper grown-up business people, which I don't count myself as. I'm an entrepreneurial hooligan, but there's also everybody from lawyer, consultant, business owners, and I obviously can only wish you good health. So just give some context as to why I would reach out. I ran a small business that grew very quickly, but in different ways I've been challenged, and in '98 they changed European cosmetics rules pretty much overnight. That destroyed my supply chain. I've had not personally foot and mouth, although I sometimes do put my foot in my mouth, as business really took a hammering. That rolled into SARS in Asia at the point where I was opening up my Asian growth division. And then, of course, Osama bin Laden more than rained on my parade. And if I'd found him, I would have dealt with him personally. To talk to you about some of the hideous things that you may be looking at, and just irrespective of my political persuasion, and understanding that there are some consultants on the course, I think in general the government have done well, but I understand there's some people really left out in the cold in terms of directors and others, and I don't have all, as I said to Michelle, I'll underline, I don't have all the answers. So in 2003, I had to make 221 people redundant. I did that as much as possible face to face with my UK team and around the world. And I can tell you that it is a remarkable situation to tell you that. Two anecdotal things. One of the people, so the first thing I did, and I think this is really important if you are looking at making people redundant, is build a score chart where you may have a small business, but actually being agile and being multi-skilled, multi-talented. So you might be able to do accountancy, but you may be good enough to do customer service, packing of boxes. You may have the right attitude to do events as you come out on the other side. Actually, you may be sales admin assistant who can multitask, but they're never going to. And yet they have so many other skills that they can bring your business. If there isn't a sales channel for you at the moment, think broadly about scoring, because what we did is we literally scored everybody's skills across every element of the skill set in my business. So accounting, sales admin, sales, customer service, shipping, supply chain. Sadly, Mandy Parker, who is my EA today, was 10.0 point below the line of the redundancy number I needed to cut the salaries to, and I had to let Mandy go. She's since been back in my life. In fact, she's never been out of my life, but at the time, she'll admit that she said to me what I did was cruel. And actually the learning of that is that you can let someone go and they can be angry, but they'll recover. And the good news is that Pacific Direct survived and thrived. And just to give you another context, you know, I had, Mandy was a single mum and going through hell. But the point there is that I couldn't make, she was actually going through a divorce as well as anyway, I couldn't make exceptions. I treated everybody as an individual. I let an old gentleman go who was clearly never going to get another job again. And Jim turned to me and because I described and explained exactly the process that we were putting everyone through. And in doing so, he turned around to me and he said, we could not have been more decent. So, you know, as long as you are fair, whatever your circumstances are, fairness really counts, because you have to sleep at night and you have to ignore the person. Albeit my culture today and the strength of culture will get you through, because you will find that some people in your organizations will step up and go, do you know what? I can bear more, or I can stop sooner, or I can. So ultimately, just to let you know, in some of my group of companies today, you know, all of my general managers have been furloughed because they see it as that's the right way to lead. And, you know, they're not allowed to work for me. Hand on heart, I don't know what's going to come in the next 12 weeks. I think it's going to be longer than 12 weeks. I have no idea. So I'm listening to the medical reports, and I thought the information from the medical side of Great Britain has been really world class and more honest last night. So how does COVID compare with September the 11th and SARS and all of these other travesties? Frankly, it's off the charts different. Right. So if you are not already acting and you aren't about to make furlough decisions, you are late to the game, and you need to take advice, and you need to get a template, and you need to look at your balance sheet, because if you are today not putting your financial expenses as your primary concern, even before your people, because you cannot make good people decisions without knowing where your cash is. And I mean cash, because you can absolutely assume that collections are going to die. You're not going to get your creditors, you know, organized. You are not going to see cash owing at the end of the month paid in many cases. Not brutally, intentionally, but because everybody's in turmoil. But I can tell you, it is worth you personally getting on the telephone and looking at the big numbers and saying to the people that owe you big numbers, this makes an absolute world of difference. I mean, I've had my HR guy, who is clearly a consultant, phone me 4 times last week. I've been messing him around, but actually we've come to a compromise. I've paid him some money. Same with my Amazon consultants. I delayed, and then she phoned me. It made the difference that she went to the top of the pile. So I hope those are some practical things. Communicate, communicate, communicate. I have a belief that when you communicate, you always learn. So also listen to the feedback, and also act decisively once you've listened. Don't spend too much time listening, because if you don't act quickly, you may not be here to fight another day. That is how serious these issues are. The other thing that I think is a real imperative is stay close to your key relationships, because you've got invariably in any business sort of a hierarchy of your time, and you really have to stay close to the things that matter. And brutally, because we don't know what the future holds, it's almost, there's this saying which is like cut once and cut deep, which I learned many years ago. I wouldn't be in business today had I not been to that lecture. And what may seem like a radical change today we'll give you every chance with a new platform, because with cash being king, you can do lots to spend later, but if you don't solve the cash riddle now and stay in business, it's a pointless exercise. So the other thing that I would say to you is, through all of this, it's really not easy. Try and keep a good attitude, right? Life is too short, but you as good leaders can be infectious with your positivity about doing the right thing. And some of you may choose to pivot your business. I mean, genuinely, all over the world, there are manufacturers and suppliers making face masks that they would never have made of, making ventilators that they would never have done before. My business had a sort of ethical dilemma. I have a hotel supplies business, but Intercontinental Hotels came to me, said, could I find face masks? And because we have the ability to do that, Chinese connections, we now are trading face masks to the hospitality industry, who are on their knees, but who are also thinking, if they buy them now and they see freight, let's say in 45 to 60 days time, where they're optimistic things will start building because that's what's showing in Wuhan, let's give the staff the armory to protect them and to care about our people first and foremost. And I thought that was really impressive. And in fact, out of that has come an idea about, and I'm waiting for their feedback, but looking at a campaign where we can all gift a, we're going to call it a thank you night to hospitality and care workers. So also don't lose sight of the kind of small give back and the things that you can do both locally. I mean, I know lots of people will be doing community stuff already, but I was saying to Michelle before the call, my daughter and I picked some daffodils last weekend and gave them to some of the ladies who are single, mums in the village that aren't having visits. Just because it's not Mother's Day, it doesn't mean that you can't give a little gift of something who's in isolation. Just put it on the doorstep and ring the doorbell carefully and walk away. Back to business. Your people should be your priorities, align your finance terms, and then really look at your business skills. I've got a list here, Michelle, which I didn't type out, but every business has a model, and it should apply to the customer problem, the solution they provide, understanding the key partners and channels that they have, then reviewing the resources required. I mean, last week, you start to think you're getting back up to track, and then Amazon shut all your supply chain for non-essential goods down, and you go, ugh! But actually you can pivot, and you can perhaps go to your warehouse and say, can we set up seller fulfilled? And we'll be seller fulfilled for some of our brands by Wednesday. And again, I had a white van of goods, no word of a lie. My husband became a white hand van driver last Friday, took goods out of the warehouse so that my kids can be packing off kits and stuff that we're selling like wildfire for Centered, because actually it keeps my kids busy and we can keep serving the need. I mean, what can you do if you've got a product that maybe has been slow moving, or maybe has been unimaginatively packaged, or could be sold with a handwritten notice as a gift? I mean, the whole of Greenwich Market has 450 people who are, craft sellers. I said to the lady who's trying to rescue that market this Saturday, they could trade amongst themselves, but why couldn't they trade kits and pieces where they do a video and it's put together this? Because God knows we're going to have to keep teenagers and young children entertained, and there's only so many cakes my husband can eat, although obviously he'll do his best. Coping mechanisms, get a routine. First of all, you need to cope. I exercise to be sane. Yesterday I was moving logs because I was angry, so I could throw wood around the place, but do whatever, find a hill, run up it. The one thing I do is I'm working as normal, but I'm working from home, so I make sure that I'm at all the meal times with the family and I don't abuse that, so I'm blacking out my diary for times that matter. I have a global business, so I start early in China. I have breakfast. I then do UK, and then in the evenings I'm in America. But you know what? I'm laughing with my staff, and I'm trying to think about the list of stop, suspend, carry on, and then I have this really big list, which is good idea, but not for now, right? So the good idea, not for now, might be a contact I come across. It might be someone says to me, what about this? And I go, oh, we should have been doing that. We don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the people. So don't try and force stuff into an already challenged and thinner pipeline, but don't lose the idea. I'm going to quickly touch on the investor landscape, because there are people who were looking for investment. And I read a appalling story in the Times this weekend about a lady who was getting investment for her sanitary product. I think it's called Dame. And they withdrew £1 million on the day or two before she was due to be funded. The truth of the matter is that don't be deluded. I think, of course, there are some investors who are still live, but I would also say that the investment community has already got investments and they've got their hands full in many cases. And yes, people can talk about getting investment from sitting at home or whatever it is, but the truth is that investment is going to be very hard to find. And I would suggest you get ready for a friends and family round or do something creative, because I don't think crowdfunding is going to be hot. It may be hotter in sort of 8 to 10 weeks when there's a new normality and perhaps people are starting to look more creatively rather than settling into this routine. But I think you're in survival mode, and I think it honestly is going to be very tough to find new investment unless you've got some wealthy friends and family.
Lara, on that point, is it worth us talking to our banks more? I mean, I know you're a big advocate of keeping your bank close.
I am, but trying to find a relationship manager at the moment is not funny.
Yeah, very true.
But I mean, genuinely, I think Britain is very bad at doing this. My personal opinion is that we're not very good at taking our own risk. When I nearly lost Pacific because of Osama, I did put my house on the line. But there was a very clear window with Osama and business getting back to normal. And at the moment, I just don't know what's going to happen to hospitality, that I'm not sure I'd make that brave decision again. So talk to your bank and maybe look at the loan agreement that you can get at a very low interest rate. And, for them, the people that frankly don't have that resource in investment, now is no better time to write a list of the good, the bad, and the ugly, the great stuff that you really want to remember you're doing, because you may literally be taking, a business growth holiday, but it doesn't mean you need to take a business holiday, right? Because we can be creative, we can design new websites, we can drive social, we can learn new skills, we can, repurpose and maybe look at the sustainability of our proposition. We can criticize the crap out of a product like I did with my kids. We're developing an item and we just thought, well, why don't we brainstorm all the stuff they hate about the product? And it was really interesting to see, their thinking about one of the items where, my business Kit Bricks is not going to sell any items at events. We've got, sports events and running events and outdoor events for dry rep. They're all gone, right? So then what can I do? I can look at my product and I can perfect it better. Versus, candidly, focus on the stuff that is working. I mean, we've had to reorder stock of Yogi Bear. Hallelujah, it blows my mind, record sales. So maybe also look in the papers and see what is doing well and what is working well. And are there subsidiary services that you can pivot to help some of those companies? My box printing company is starting to produce some kind of medical box that they've never made before. I've got a friend who supplies fruit and veg to the restaurant trade, whose business was on its knees 14 days ago. And he's pivoted in both New York and London, and he cannot cope with the demand for fresh fruit and veg delivery from Natura. And Natura has 7 retail shops. They could have, all of that fruit and veg could have gone to waste, and instead he's put it in, boxes. And a girlfriend of mine in Edinburgh has a property company. Her brother runs a food delivery service. Her whole business is the extended call center. Could you become a call center employee? You're an intelligent, bright person. What can you do with your skill set? There are some things that are happening, which I think are remarkable. So I think Deborah, Michelle, the girl Debbie, who does finance lessons, she's running some web seminars about financing, and that was something I was going to mention. But look to those in your network who have greater skills than you do. God knows most people have more than I do. I'm a salesperson, but you know, bank uncertainty is a problem. But rethink what you're doing, and maybe have a conversation with someone you wouldn't normally have a conversation, to say, what would you do? Because they may come at it very differently. I'm nearly at 20 minutes, so I'm just going to go through some survival skills. I'm daily communicating with my different teams. I've got people that are managing up. I've got a young woman who's taken over the whole of customer service because she said she'd kill her brother if she wasn't busy 5 days a week. So I saved somebody's life. I've got income collection from people not usually collecting income. I've got data organizer because one of my staff said, look, I'm a bit of a geek, and if I'm not going to do order processing, I'm going to do this project. Brilliant. Came to me proactively. And ask your people proactively to come to you with ideas, because you might, don't think you have to have all the ideas, please. Upskill some of your workers, ask them to attend a course. There's so much stuff that's come free online, and it isn't just yoga classes. But I have to say that Yogi Bear is, I mean, it's hysterical. Find a daily release. So celebrate something each day, because we need to pat ourselves on the back by keeping going. Unnecessary subscription. We've saved in most of my companies over £100 in every business by unsubscribing to apps that we don't need. Have you looked literally line by line at your bank statements? Because you can unsubscribe, and I'm sad to say, you know, you need to give notice to anything and everything that is no longer necessary. I call this squeezing the lemon. So reduce any costs, obviously, cleaning, office services, turn off every automatic payment, because somebody's going to warn you that you've turned something off in case you've missed it, but then you can make a really good considered decision. Definitely write to your bank and tell them that you're expecting to waive their bank fees, even if they don't acknowledge. You've put something in writing, and then it's up to them to respond, but you've notified them of your change. Revisit all your messaging, ramp up your digital comms, explore what other channels might exist that you may never delved in before. Ask yourself, what do you know? But more than that, who do you know? I have found already on LinkedIn through some of my sales team, you know, encourage your sales team to aim higher, reach out to senior people, template an offer so that you can scale it up. We've got, for example, a gym offer that's being rolled out and by my Wellbeing Brand Centered, and it's been taken up by a gym group, and now I'm rolling it out to every gym group. I may not know them, but actually every gym closed, and yet they're selling yoga mats to their customers. They're making a few quid a yoga mat. It's better than nothing, and they've had to do nothing except put it into a newsletter that shows care about their consumers. So remember, you're selling something. Who do they sell it onto? Is there something you can impact to help them, you know, build on something you have? Build your ambassador list and really reach out. I talk about liquidity management earlier, but, you know, maybe there are some suppliers, my suppliers in the past, when I was trading a lot of soap and helping those businesses grow quickly. I went back to my supply chain and I said to them, I need extended credit terms. This morning I did a deal, by the way, with my yoga mat box provider, because we're selling out of those so quickly. I just said, if you double the volume, but you split the invoice, so I'll take the volume because I'm selling that item, but I'm not pay some of it in May. And he said, no problem. Run the whole lot once the machine's set up. In the same way, we're doing, you know, things with empty bottles we've got a hand sanitizer. We've taken goods that were printed with shampoo, shower gel. We've rewrapped the label. We're putting hand sanitizer in it because Britain needs hand sanitizer. We think that's, you know, helping. Although actually I had an ethical dilemma about going, you know, but we need to service the demand. Finally, a couple of other points. Please do not write off ahead, right? Think opportunistically, but also keep that future thinking list. Increase your communication with your stakeholders without, you know, pointless messaging. And obviously everybody's trying to avoid being crass, but You know, I wrote, this is no word of a lie, the other day, last week, my daughter's dentist appointment was cancelled. The receptionist phoned me up and I said, you know, we're making face masks for the hotel industry. What's happening to dentistry? And she said, we can't buy face masks. My brother-in-law, the weekend before, is in construction industry, can't buy face masks. When people get back to work, hygiene, this big new elephant in the room, anything you can do that's hygiene related. You might be a lawyer who can sell, I don't know, a new template that is all about hygiene for staff. That's completely made up out of thin air. It might be absolute bollocks. You might be, you know, I can't just imagine that the heightened change of human behavior. Write down all the things that you see people are going to change. You know, working at home. What are the subscription boxes? Could you invent a new business that has hygiene related something? I don't know. You know, maybe you're lucky enough to have some cash flow to do that, or maybe you can cobble together with suppliers that are on their knees and can provide you something and you're the marketeer. When it comes out to the other side, keep a list of the really good decisions that you've made. I genuinely had to reread some 2004 documents to remind myself of what cut once and cut deep was. And I hope some of those points have been useful, but I've rattled through it and I think we should move to questions because I need to take a breath. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lara. Thank you. And for those of you that are wondering, because I see lots of people are taking notes, we do have a document that we've kind of been working on, and we've got a list of all of those points, which we'll be able to share with you, which is kind of a roadmap, I suppose, of different areas you can look at to either cut costs or to innovate. Okay, I've got a question here. Somebody's asking Lara for details of the face mask, or if you can email those. She works in hospitality. And who is this? D. Skirma.
Okay, I mean, by the end of the day, we ought to know for hand sanitizer and face mask what we can do in the UK. Literally, we shipped goods to Japan, Germany, America, and UK. And by the way, any of you being promised air freight out of China, expect it to take 14 days longer. There is only 14% of air freight coming out of China at the moment. It is 5 times the cost it was. Think about the maths. If you order today and your goods aren't available for 10 days and air freight is 14 and it clears slowly, you might be as well to get it on a boat. It's much cheaper.
Okay, that's good advice. Does anyone want to ask a question? Because you can unmute yourself if you'd like to. I know Laura wants to. Laura Hepburn, you have a question?
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so I've got a really weird and wonderful past. I work in plastics to power now, but I previously was in the film industry. We have got hundreds of unemployed costume departments that are all on standby. They want to sew face masks. We're talking for the needles, they can't get it in. How is the best way of me pairing up with somebody that's we've got a workforce that are desperate to do this, hundreds of people who want to make a difference, but they can't get the resources.
So funnily enough, at the weekend, my husband and I were talking about the fact that, you know, it's all very well buying out of China, and China has mass capacity and it is starting to, by the way, the Chinese government are only letting 20% of export of the volume of face masks that are in manufacture at the moment because they're keeping 80% for their own people. So I think it's a great idea, Laura. I will speak to the manufacturer, get your email to Michelle, I provide you with the pattern. And the issue really is the non-woven fabric, which is a 3-ply. There is a certain treatment as well that allows the face mask to be fit for human use, so to speak, which gives it a barrier.
Yeah.
Don't know whether my China source would be able to supply that, but I'm really happy to ask the question. Okay.
That'd be great. The other side of it is the
financial side of it.
They want to do scrubs for the workers as well, and they've got patterns ready, and they know the kind of material that they need. It's just getting somebody to supply the material.
Have you been onto the government website, which is the method by which the government are getting people to apply offers and services?
Right.
If you apply, there is a brilliant questionnaire. I have to say they haven't come back to us on face masks, even though I filled it out last week. But Michelle, capture that, and I will get you a link, Laura, to that website, because I believe in nothing ventured, nothing gained. And the problem is that I don't believe, and I don't know this, but you know, I mean, this is madness, right? But a non-woven manufacturer in America bought a container load of face masks from us last Friday because his non-woven is not right and he can't supply, right? So do be careful that you get the right certificate, because this is not a joke. You can't just supply anything, okay? Sorry, I'm sure you know that.
No, it's great. Great.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have we got another question? I don't know if there's any point continuing with the call if people, I mean, is there anything that we could do around leads and needs? Because maybe there are some points where people want to say, actually, I've got this lead or I've got this need. Does anybody know someone? Michelle?
Oh, sorry, I was chatting away. I've got a question from Malika. It's about your Amazon consultant. She's interested to know how she could drive sales harder through this channel.
God, it's a really difficult one. I mean, I'm very happy to introduce you to Danielle, but I mean, candidly, the Amazon people that have a customer base and they're busy, they're literally employing. If you're already on Amazon and you're driving it yourself, I genuinely believe you should be up at 6 o'clock every morning doing a course, because there's enough through Amazon learning channels. They have everything. You can become an Amazon expert, not overnight. It's going to take some time, but it may be quicker to do it depending on the size of your business. I accept that. But if somebody wants to get an introduction to my consultants, I'm happy to do that. But I have to say, I don't think they'll take any work on, because they are the businesses that are still able to sell on Amazon. Because remember, Amazon has shut down any non-necessary goods. And originally they shut it down to the 21st of April. It's now shut down to the 29th of April. And that doesn't mean that Amazon will open. And just behind the grapevine, I believe that's because Amazon are going to be responsible for distributing all the testing kits around the world. So they are making space for capacity to do testing kits, which clearly is a bigger priority than us selling goods.
Yeah. Thank you. I've got a question as well from Susanna. She's saying that a lot of people are struggling with the ethics and morality of marketing their services at the moment. Is it still okay?
Well, I mean, here's the point, right? Everybody is going to have their own approach to this. I mean, I have a luggage company called Gate 8. He closed a business last week, and we were speaking about face masks this morning, but he has data to airlines, and he may be able to rebuild his business if he sells face masks to the travel industry, which could get us back up and traveling hygienically and safely in 12 or 16 weeks' time. For me, ethically, you know, you're not crass. And if you're empathetic, I mean, I have to say, and this is not a promotion because Yogi Bear is selling off the charts, but if you go to Yogi-Bear, or you go onto Instagram, it's Yogi, YOGI-BARE, Kat's empathy, and she has every reason to be empathetic because yoga saved her life and she's extremely well followed. I think her genuine messaging, you know, her belief that yoga keeps you sane, and it did literally keep her alive. In the same way that my brand's centered, you know, we've had the same dilemma. You know, do I want to offer you my brilliant, I mean, dare I say it, I'm going to do this because I think it's important. That is my centered de-stress candle, because I practice what I preach. But genuinely, we have this, I haven't got it with me, but a survival tin, and it's called the Ultimate Survival Kit. Now, that's either completely crass or actually with a personal note. My mum thought it was hysterical, is what I'm telling you. I just sent her one because she's stuck in South Africa. And, ironically, my brother and I have this challenge of, do you leave her in South Africa where it seems she's safe? So, the ethical dilemma, the crassness, the way you communicate. Bottom line, if you're selling with a genuine belief that the product that you've got has a need, and this is where, like, the Greenwich market people, do you consider craft to be a need, right? Well, actually, I think for mental wellness, busy, and I'm not very good at television, I'd rather make something and feel the joy of creating something. If you look at my Instagram, yesterday I know this is slightly fucking mad, but I was picking up pine cones in the forest, in the flipping howling wind. A, they're free, and I'm partly Scottish. B, they're good as firelighters. And C, they look beautiful. And D, it's just something natural, right? So I went to the forest and picked pine cones. I've got exercise. My legs are killing me. I can barely go downstairs. Still, I'm mad. Do what is right for you. I think if you do it in a good spirit, you can get away with, and I don't mean get away, I think you can just try and be business as usual in an empathetic way.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. What do you do, Susanna?
I've got a video marketing company.
So imagine, send out the moron's advice to me, please. We want to do live streaming for Centered, and I've been frankly reticent in the past, partly because I have other interests, but Centered saved me when I was traveling, and right now I know that it's helping people with mindset. You can have a routine, light yourself a candle, take a deep breath, have some, and I don't know what the bloody hell I'm doing when I'm live streaming, so I'd love to have that conversation, and thank you, but I think you've got skills, sell them.
Yeah. I think that advice is really good. I think as long as you're doing it in the right way and you're doing it from a place, it's just a lot of things.
Actually, do you know what? I'm looking at the background, a very empty office or home. I don't know if that's your home, but if it is, I rather like it. And there's a lot of space. If you had the clutter of my teenage, you'd literally love it. But you know what? We've got to stay mentally fresh. And I do think this routine thing, I keep saying it, but, and you know what? There is nothing than giving back. I have a plan that next week I'm getting my local baker, who's going out of business because all of his shops are in close down. I'm ordering, I can't decide whether it's 100 Olympic in my village or 100 Olympic rings or something, but you know what, we have to make an Olympic effort at looking after each other, so build our own Olympics.
Thank you.
Lara, we have a question from Sophie Milliken. She's saying, do you ever have days where you just have a meltdown or feel like you're in complete despair during this crisis? And how do you pull yourself back out of it?
Yeah, I literally, I can tell you candidly, I was walking down the stairs on Friday morning after a pretty tough week. The week before, I'd made some, tough decisions about reducing working hours. Then we're talking about furlough. And actually I felt like I said, I'm not sure I want to do this anymore. And I'm in a very privileged position, right? And one thing I do is I sense check sometimes with my brother, because he's also, and he made me laugh out loud because he's just opened up a facility for $50 million. And I said, you must really want to keep going. And he said, that's the point, right? So there's always someone out there who's got it. And in his case, he's got thousands of staff. I do. I have, and then I go for a walk and I get fresh air, or I take a breath, and genuinely, I have vulnerable moments. When I made those redundancies in 2004, I sat in a lay-by and I cried my heart out for 45 minutes because, I'm human. And, There's nothing wrong with crying if it makes you feel better, but you know, then you just have to pick yourself up and go, I lead this show. It's a privilege to be in the lead position because you get to control decisions, whether they're good or bad. And frankly, this is where you earn your money. So you shouldn't be taking the money and leading if you're not going to make the tough decisions, because you owe it to your people to be extremely proactive and to be. And let me tell you, works for me. And the fact that, you know, these people that I'm in touch with that I let go then, or I'm still friends with, and they still work in the business and they came back to Pacific, I promise you this people stuff works. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'm just checking who else we have questions from. Sally Richards it's not a question, she's just saying to everyone that they have a network of travel and hospitality consultants that they're offering pro bono services to, and that they've really experienced a lot of people willing to help, which is great to hear. Are there any more questions?
Any leads or needs, people that need introductions, maybe they don't have as big a network, maybe there's someone on the call in a different industry who can, you know, one of the things that I will say is amongst your lawyer,
there are some lawyers on the
advisory group. Sorry?
I was saying there are some lawyers on the call.
Right. So, you know, there are lots of people who know other people in other industries and other businesses. The one thing that I was laughing about with quite a lot of my staff, because we were doing work over the weekend in America, is I had to call you back, and my member of staff in America said, yeah, I know where you are. I mean, the truth is none of us are going anywhere. We might as well stay busy.
Okay, great. Does anyone else want to ask any questions? I see, Lara, I said to Malika, I'll connect you guys separately regarding the Amazon consultant, so you guys can have a chat about that.
Yeah.
But does anyone have any other questions? Oh, Claire Talbot Jones is asking, how do you be the voice of calm in the panic?
I mean, to be honest with you, I just think you have to take a deep breath. It sounds really ridiculous, but we all breathe. Just do it a bit more consciously. And the other bit is plan what you're going to say. You know, I get up early every day because I write the list of the critical stuff. I'm going to give you an example. I've done one email today and it's nearly midday because everything I did beforehand was phoning people to check that they were okay and to check we were clear about what we wanted to do. And you know, last week I sent out a whole load of products to my team so that at some stage, you know, hopefully without putting too much of a burden on the postal system, my own team get a bit of surprise and delight. You know, one of the most powerful things you can do is genuinely buy some cards and some envelopes and write a personal message to everybody in your team. But also think of your supplier as your team, and think of your customer as your team, because you know, I do believe that there's an enormous amount to be said for we're in this together, and innovative ideas can come from anyone and everyone. And there will be winners and losers. I mean, God, I wish I had shares in Mindful Chef. But, you know, swings and roundabouts.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, Joy has asked a question. She says, I'm a personal stylist and founder of Potential You Image Consultancy. I'm now working virtually. If anyone needs help with their style, I'm happy to speak to you free of charge for 30 minutes. That's great. Thanks, Joy. And
good for you. Can you just tell everybody your contact detail through Michelle, because she'll summarize that. And actually, Michelle, anybody that doesn't want to share details should tell you, because otherwise, you know, maybe there's some leads and needs or people on the call where I can say, I notice you do this, you know, can you help me do that? Who knows? You just, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you're not good at LinkedIn right now, and you're not doing the free stuff, which is social, and I mean, I'm rubbish at Facebook, but, you know, do what's right for you, but you don't have an excuse not to be busy.
Nicola Grant is asking, what do you think your company is going to take from this experience and permanently implement?
That's a great question. I've already written that we need to review key man insurance and our insurances, because I'm not sure that this isn't going to be a revolving door. I have to be honest, I'm very lucky that I always think that I'm 10 years ahead somehow, without being arrogant, in my business brain, because I started my first company when I was 23. I think you've always got to have a buffer of funds available, but don't be over conservative, because that can strangle your innovative upside and your growth potential. And actually, I mean, truthfully, we're setting up a new company in America because we've seen that there's a demand for a product that will probably have ongoing demand for many, many months and years to come.
Lara, I've got a question from Simone here. She says, who holds you up and what do you need?
Oh, good question. Simone, hi, how are you? Who holds me up? Stupid banks. You know, I'm not angry with the investment community, because truthfully, they should put their current investments first. I'm a small investor. But what people don't recognize is the big investment funds and the VCs, they're beholden to our pension funds, and we want them to do a good job. So we might get angry with them, but there are reasons they sometimes have to behave the way they behave, and you don't always get the full story in journalism. Who holds me up? I mean, nothing, to be honest, because I'm going to find a way. I'm going to duck and I'm going to dive. And some days I get angry, but I get quietly angry, because anger doesn't do anyone any good. And I just genuinely believe that you can have mind over matter. I'm not here to promote my products, but I genuinely believe that you can change your mindset through smelling a flower. On the way before this call, I walked around my garden to get some fresh air before I sat down. And, when I'm talking to people, I'm standing up because I want to stay moving. And I do have an artillery of things that I do to stay sane. I do set ridiculously pathetic targets. Like, I get a cappuccino after this call because I've done it okay. And, I think small celebrations, and I'm desperately trying to, resist the larder, because otherwise the only thing that's going to stand me up is Slimming World.
I think, Lara, actually, that was what you just touched on now, was something that came out in another session that we did last week. And this is a question I have for you. Do you think that this is also a time for us to be kind to ourselves? Because I know I've certainly felt the pressure to innovate, to find new channels, to do so, and that on top of trying to manage everything else and being confined with your family in a small space can be a bit overwhelming. So is this also a time for us to carve out some time for self-care and self-kindness?
Yeah, let's be honest. I've built a brand called Centered, which is all about mindful well-being, because I used to arrive in these hideously cheap, nasty hotel rooms. It used to smell of someone else, crew luggage or smoke, or, these were not 5-star hotels at all, because I was bootstrapping. And I used to use aromatherapy to sort of get through those hideous days, moments, and also trying to stay awake, trying to stay asleep. I have my, ridiculous artillery of balms, but, equally a face mask. I'm rubbish at self-care. I'm not very good at cosmetics. I don't use them because I don't believe much in it. But, even last night, for me, I'm putting on because I'm with my teenage girls who I'm like moisturizing. And I think, having a bath, there's nothing wrong with having a bath, and equally, I need to run, I need to exercise, do what's right for you. It may be, I think music can be really helpful. And I think you should grant yourself, ultimately, times are tough. Doing a constructive break that's good for you, that pays dividends, and you come back feeling just a bit better and hold your head up high. I also think, call someone. like I call my brother, you know, I do these breathing exercises, and you know, what you've got to do is you've got to find what is right for you. You know, I've got to stop thinking that chocolate is the answer. Yeah, I mean, of course, self-care is important, but I think also, I mean, my husband and I are having much better quality time because, you know, this morning I just thought, sod it, I just want to have a coffee with my husband as opposed to getting up, getting dressed and going to the barn and working all day.
So Dennis has got a question here. Do you have an example of a business in your portfolio where it was better to close down temporarily rather than pivot?
Yeah, I've done that with 2 of them. So Brutal Understanding, Global Amenities Direct, which is a sustainability advice and consultancy for product for hotels. Beth is now working in Yogi Bear. Abby's a mum who's got 2 small children and she's furloughing. Andrew's a new starter, but he's had to furlough. And Dawn, who was my previous PA in Pacific, who works in that business, is now my EA because Mandy, my real EA, is furloughing. And Gate 8 has closed its whole office operation. Alistair will be selling face masks through one of our other company while Gate is 12 weeks. But what we did do, because we think it's the right thing to do, is we put the consultant that would otherwise starve still on income to run Gate 8. So he's not running his own company. It's just more economically sensible and fair to that person. So the answer is that, you know, I would set some targets if you're going to close down your business, and I would rewrite your business plan, which is really well time spent. And I would really be critical about the rubbish that you're wasting time and money on, because we all have fat on the bone, but you can still be closed as a business while you're using your. Yeah.
Great, thank you. There was one last one from Sarah, who was asking if you or someone in your network would be willing to speak to her and talk through your experiences with a product-based business. She, as far as I know, is launching a skincare brand, body and skincare startup.
If it's a body and skincare startup and it's not in market, I mean, I can speak to you in about a week's time. My diary is challenging. Also, well, I help anyone and everyone I can, but clearly there has to be a timetable. And I mean, the one that I would say that British businesses do not do enough of is they don't look at what the competition are doing. I mean, and it can come in swings and roundabouts. I mean, you know, it's tough for everybody and we've all got to do our best, but look at what the competition are doing. You can always learn.
Brilliant. I think actually on that point, Lara, because there was something that you had put in your notes, which I found really interesting, and because I don't have a product-based business, hadn't really thought of that. But how, and I've now since seen it, that on Instagram and through the channels that everybody's selling bundles, and you'd made a really good point about looking at your cost of distribution and not selling low-cost items, but looking at putting things together so that you can be making more in terms of marginal delivery. And I think that's really interesting, even just from a consumer perspective. I was like, wow, I'm seeing that happening more and more now. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, it's also, I mean, with Gate 8, which we've closed, part of the deal we did is we sold some luggage to TK Maxx, which I would never have done. And I'm saying to you that publicly because, you know, you have to make tough decisions, and we're not, you know, lacking in the difficult area. But equally, I mean, you know, you need to watch. Ironically, Yogi Bear now has sold out of blocks. Actually, we were desperate to get rid of the purple and the pink ones. Ugh! You know, you can't win. So you really need to keep a close eye. We had Sweaty Betty sold out of yoga mats. It was in the Sunday Times. I didn't have time to read it. My husband says so in passing. I would never have seen it. And our bundles are crazy good. But you know, you really need to know that you've got stock and replenishment before you start discounting. So, you know, one of the things, we're not really doing deals anymore with yoga. We'll do deals with some of the other products, but, you know, hand lotion, and hand wash are running out because factories are closed. So why would I discount my hand wash and my hand lotion? If I can sell it at full price, I can give more to NHS nurses, which I'm about to do. And the other thing is that this is simple, but wherever you have your stock in whatever warehouse, one of the things that Gate 8 did is they looked at their stock count and their pallet count and they consolidated stuff. And it may sound like nothing, but you do that well and you could save 30 pallets of wasted stock costs sitting in a warehouse, and they're going to bill you. You times that by 12, you may have saved thousands of pounds, or at least hundreds of pounds. Well, hundreds of pounds adds up and might get you back into business sooner. Yeah. So all small things add up. Do the sum of small gains, please.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I've put a note in the group chat. If you'd like your contact details shared with everyone, please do paste them there, and I'll figure out a way to extract the information and send it around, as well as with Lara's plan and her outline of the points that she ran through toward the end. But you should all have my email address. I'll post it in here as well. So if there is anything you need, give me a shout, and then I can check Lara about any connections as well. Lara, I'll run them by you first.
No problem. I hope that's been useful, and I, genuinely, it's not meant to be negative, but the negative will turn into a positive survival. But do not be unaware that this could last a lot longer than any of us hope. I think you've got to really plan for the future. I can only wish you well.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It's really good to see so many of you.
Everybody.
And please stay tuned on our website. We're going to be running a lot more virtual events, so we'd love to see you at those as well. Cheers. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lara.
No problem. I'll call you separately.
Okay, brilliant.